truck drivers, Chinese mysticism, Kurt Russell's one-of-a-kind 80s machismo, explodey-headed guys, 7-foot-tall Bigfoot monsters, and enough goofy one-liners for 10 movies about a group of heroes saving a pair of gorgeous women with green eyes from an ancient overlord. You guessed it, guys. We are about to shake the pillars of heaven and remake John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China. Check your reflexes on this dark and stormy night and get ready for some fun nostalgia with more than a few changes. We're about to remake this movie right. Hello, my fellow cinematic architects, and welcome to Remake This Movie Right, where I remember the Hollywood Outsider Network. Listen to episodes of Remake This Movie Right on iTunes, where reviews are appreciated, or your podcast app of choice, or you can always just visit the website at remakethismovieright.com. Remake This Movie Right is a show where we take an original film that has an actual remake in the works, figure out what still clicks and what doesn't, throw a bit of humor at it, and then we determine exactly how Hollywood should remake it. So by the end of each episode, we will have the remake ready to roll for Hollywood execs and present it to you in movie trailer form. We are here to tell Hollywood how to remake this movie right. I am your host, Aaron Peterson, and joining me today from Packers Fan Podcast and the Blacklist Exposed, Troy Heinritz.
Hey, movie peeps, what's going on?
I'm pumped for this one and scared.
To death.
Scared to death. Also from Pro Podcast Solutions, and he also heads up Golden Spiral Media, a network, a plethora of shows, if you will, Darnell.
Hey. You guys do all the heavy lifting on Golden Spiral Media, you guys with your Blacklist Exposed. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. But Darrell, he's been doing it. It's the first time you've been on our show.
Yeah.
Darrell has done podcasting for years. You're a pioneer of sorts, wouldn't you say?
Since 2008.
That's a long time. It's a long time. What's the biggest thing you've learned all these years of podcasting?
The biggest thing I've learned podcasting is that I never get tired of it.
Oh, you've got this answer planned. I like it.
I don't know that was planned. No, seriously. I mean, whether it's chatting with guys like you and the unique podcasts that you guys do, or the ones that we do at Golden Spiral Media, or the ones I edit for my clients with Pro Podcast Solutions, I never get tired of it.
That's a great answer and a wonderful plug, by the way. Troy, you need to get better at this because he's got it down. For this episode of Remake This Movie Right, we are discussing one of my favorite movies that I know isn't a great movie, but it's one of my favorite movies, Big Trouble in Little China. Now, we all three just rewatched it, as we always do prior to one of these episodes. I'm curious, before we get into the nuts and bolts, the fun facts about the movie, that sort of thing. Troy, Darrell, what do you guys think about the movie looking at it 30 years later?
Okay, here's the thing. I grew up in a household that every weekend my parents and I would go to the video store and walk out with a fistful of movies to watch for that weekend. Mm-hmm. 3 to 5 movies, it seemed like most weekends we were watching. Most of the time in the horror genre, but not always. This was one of those movies that we watched probably when it originally came out on VHS, mm-hmm. and I remember loving it. And like the very end scene, the last thing that happens, I was just like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. So I hadn't watched it since then. And when I rewatched it the first time, I thought, oh my gosh, this movie's terrible. But on my second rewatch, I liked it a whole lot more. Not as much as I remembered, but I could appreciate it for what it was and actually what they were trying to do. They totally weren't taking themselves too seriously at all. And that was totally intentional. Not that I'd missed it on my first rewatch. It was just, I think I was more settled with it on my second rewatch. But yeah, I totally loved it growing up, and now that I'm almost 40, it's okay. You know, it's an 80s movie. What are you gonna do?
I think when you look back on it, it's hard to not notice its blemishes. I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot of, especially special effects. That the monster you're talking about at the very end. How do you not laugh at that now? I mean,
yeah, exactly. That's one of the things.
but you don't laugh at that kind of monster if you're watching Labyrinth again, or Dark Crystal, or any of those other Muppet movies that were out in the 80s.
I don't know. I probably would.
Why do you laugh at this
I
one?
I would still laugh at those two. I watched Labyrinth probably 2 years ago is the last time I watched it, and it's got some pretty laughable moments.
Yeah, it does.
It does. Well, I could say that I was actually surprised at how funny Kurt Russell can be when he delivers those deadpan liners. Because you just think of Kurt Russell and you're like, you think Backdraft or you think Stargate or the Escape movies, and it's like he's actually pretty funny in this. He should have done more comedies like Overboard with Goldie Hawn. So I think that this was really in his wheelhouse. It was really, really fun to watch from his perspective. The rest of the concept of the movie I thought was a little bit over the top, again, way different than we remembered as kids, but it was enjoyable. I made it through and I was like, it's not awful, but I wouldn't make a point of to watch it a second time anytime soon.
Well, I actually rewatching it thought, the concept is a little dated because it was based on a lot of the Chinese chopsaki films of that era, which aren't as prominent these days. So I don't think that particular portion of the film hold up as strongly as they used to. But man, Kurt Russell is timeless. I remember when I was rewatching it, that's exactly why I love that movie. Just his lines and his John Wayne-ish attitude.
Yes.
While still being a complete idiot most of the time.
Yeah.
And actually not a hero. He's really not the hero of the movie, even though they keep acting like he's a hero. He's basically the guy that's just keeps messing things up. He can't get the gun to work. He accidentally kills the guy in the armor, and then he's just stuck there for half a battle.
Yeah, he knocks himself out in the big scene, the climax scene, knocks himself out by shooting bullets and knocking the brick down on himself.
Oh man, it's so good. Here, drink this, and I got courage now. I just drank that, and they're all just sitting around giggling. Yeah, you got that. Uh-huh.
But Troy, it's interesting what you said about the different types of movies, because I had a conversation with my wife, and she really only knew him from Overboard. And I start telling her about this movie, and she's like, you're talking about Kurt Russell. And I'm like, yeah. And so in her mind, that's who Kurt Russell was. And in my mind, this is who Kurt Russell is. This and Escape from New York and these types of movies that he did. I don't think about Backdraft and those types of higher end drama or more serious drama that he did. This is what I think of. And when you say this is in his wheelhouse, Aaron, I agree, because this is exactly what I think of when I think of Kurt Russell.
Oh man, to keep the fires burning, call the president. No, just every line he says is, I love it. Well, how about we always start these episodes with some fun facts about the movie. A few facts about the movies as well as fun facts provided by IMDb. The movie centers around an all-American truck driver who gets dragged into a centuries-old mythical battle in Chinatown. Mythical, mystical, one of those. It made a whopping $11 million at the box office. Even in $86, that's not much. But it did become, as Darrell was talking about, it became a huge cult hit on VHS. Some of the fun facts on the movie itself. Chinese characters in the main title translate to evil spirits make a big scene in little spiritual state. Seems overly complicated. According to John Carpenter and Kurt Russell in the DVD commentary, the story was originally written as a Western, but Carpenter decided to set it during modern times. They even mention that instead of Jack Burton's truck being stolen, it was originally his horse. Can you imagine this movie as a Western?
Yes.
You didn't even hesitate, man.
Aliens and cowboys, right?
Well, here's the thing, guys. The first idea that I had on how we would remake this was to remake it as a Western. And then I thought of Yojimbo and what's the spaghetti Western made after? A Fistful of Dollars or A Few Dollars More?
Okay.
One of those. The American spaghetti Western with Clint Eastwood is a complete remake of the Japanese samurai version of that. So I think that probably was heavily influencing my thought process on that. But yeah, I can totally see this as a Western.
All right. Well, I guess Darrell's on board. We're going to see where his movie's going to be fun. In the scene where Kurt Russell's attempting to infiltrate the brothel, he's wearing the same outfit he wore in Used Cars, which I love that movie, by the way, if nobody's ever seen it. It's an old I think it was Robert Zemeckis. I think
that totally makes sense now that you mention it, yes.
The Three Storms were partly the inspiration for the popular character of Thunder God Raiden from the Mortal Kombat fighting video game series.
Mm-hmm.
And as lightning is crushed to death near the end of the film, some of the lightning he emits forms a small Chinese symbol, and as it disappears near the middle of the screen, the symbol translates to Carpenter, and it was directed by John Carpenter.
I did see the symbol. I didn't know what it stood for, though, so that's good.
Yeah, that's cool. And
since he made the movie, does that mean he's like an egomaniac or something? Okay, Okay, remember, guys, as we get into this, if you have your own pitch for this remake, be sure to submit it to remakethismovieright@gmail.com. We will read the best pitches on our next teaser episode. But first, let's talk about the original. But before we do, here's a little clip from that movie. One of the best clips of the movie.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Like I told my last wife, I says, honey, I never drive faster than I can see. Besides that, it's all in the reflexes. You just listen to the old Pork Chop Express and take his advice on a dark and stormy night, all right? When some wild-eyed, 8-foot-tall maniac grabs your neck, taps the back of your favorite head up against a barroom wall, and he looks you crooked in the eye, and he asks you if you've paid your dues. Well, you just stare that big sucker right back in the eye, and you remember what old Jack Burton always says at a time like that. Have you paid your dues, Jack? Yes, sir, the check is in the mail.
It's in the mail. All right. Well,
I'm hungry for a hoagie now for some reason.
Oh, man. I think there's some irony there, since that's the beginning of the movie, and at the very end, there's like an 8-foot whatever in the back of his truck.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the original. We always talk about the original a little bit before we get into our intended remake. So what do you guys love about it? Troy, what do you love about the original?
I really enjoyed the kind of camaraderie that you see between Wang and Jack, and what they, as they progress through it, the dynamic between the two of them, because as they're playing dominoes initially, then it's funny if they'd be playing Mexican dominoes or regular dominoes. We didn't really figure that out in the movie. That'd be kind of funny and add in. But the concept of them kind of going back and forth, and it's almost like they're at odds with each other. And then here they have to end up becoming teammates in order to save the world, basically. And then he ends up paying triple or nothing at the end. I think that was pretty fun to just see the two of them work together.
What about you, Daryl?
You know, you mentioned the style of this movie, not knowing whether or not it would work in today's landscape or not. But this is so 80s, not just in terms of the music and some of the dialogue and all that stuff, but the fight scenes are amazing. And I don't think they would work today, but when I watch these and just how cornball they are at times and how ridiculous they are, I like them. I think they're totally campy, but they're fantastic.
My favorite part, obviously, aside from Kurt Russell, and anybody that knows me, I'm a huge Kurt Russell fan. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. I don't know why. He just is. But this movie is a great reason why. The fact that you have a movie that's starring a big macho white guy in the 80s, which in the 80s, if you were a big macho white guy, you were the hero. So he's portrayed as, he's got to be the hero. When you watch the movie, he's got to be the hero. I mean, they start the movie with him. He's the guy that wanders into a situation outside of his understanding, etc. But as the movie goes on and you realize he's really incompetent to a degree until the very, very end. The whole movie, I mean, his friend is actually the hero throughout the movie. He saves his butt I don't know how many times. And it's more like as Jack, we're the audience, we're the fumbling it, just following him around, hearing all of his machismo and all of his bravada, but he doesn't back hardly any of it up. He's just what we kind of think of that those macho guys in the 80s. They're just all talk, a bunch of meatheads that really, really couldn't deliver when it came down to it. In the background, you've got all of this Chinese culture, which you could tell that John Carpenter loved that culture, because I do think he treats it very reverential. He's very respectful of it. And, you know, it's basically, look, maybe the white guy can't solve everybody's problems. You know, he just needs to show up. I don't know. For me, it was just having the guy that everybody expects to be the hero not really be the hero. I love that concept. And
yeah, on my rewatch, I was struck by the opening scene, which is great if you're an X-Files fan. You get Deep Throat there in the opening scene. But he's talking with Egg Shen, and he says, "Hey, without Jack Burton, I mean, Jack Burton saved the city.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not ratting him out. I'm not telling you where he or his truck is." And so when he said that, and I'm on my second rewatch, I'm like, no, he didn't. I'm quite sure that's not the case. But yet that's the way it goes down. I mean, yes, you're right. He is the guy that technically killed Lopan, but even that, I'm like, I'm thinking that was kind of even dumb luck, you know?
Well, and that was one thing that was troubling me about it, because I watched it and I kind of rewatched just the opening sequence a second time, and he's talking about, I have an entire city block that went up in this green ball of smoke, and it was like, is this like the Goonies thing where there was the octopus that wasn't the octopus? Because there was no explosion of green ball of smoke. So where did this come from? And I thought Egg Shen was going on vacation. So what is he doing at the DEA's office or whatever?
Yeah, that's true.
And I was trying to think back, like when we were kids and we saw this movie the first time, why it was so beloved by so many people. And I think it's just because there's nothing else like it. Like it or hate it. And I do think it's a love it or hate it kind of movie. I was listening to the commentary today after I'd watched the movie, and I was listening to some of the commentary, and Kurt Russell says he can tell someone's sense of humor based on if they like this movie or not. And I think that's very telling, because it's, and if you don't like it, I don't know if I want to know you.
Well, it's interesting because I'm watching it and like all those martial arts scenes, and it's like, man, this stuff is just so over the top and all the extra moves, and it's like, just hit the guy already, you know? And it's like, you watch this and it's like, this is awesome and I love it. And then you compare that to what they did for Airbender with M. Night Shyamalan, and it was like the worst thing about Airbender was all of this delayed motion of the moves of the martial arts. So it's like, why does it work in one movie and doesn't work in the other?
Yeah, because it totally shouldn't work here. It shouldn't. So speaking of what doesn't work, so now that we've all rewatched it, what no longer works for you?
This sounds terrible, but I think the whole movie doesn't work. I think that this is a great movie for the 80s, but I don't think that you could make this movie today with the really corny, over-the-top dialogue, with the really corny, over-the-top action fighting scenes, and even the effects. We talked a little bit about the monster and stuff. I mean, none of it works today for a movie being made today. But if you take it for what it is in the 80s and for what the landscape was back then it's perfect. So for me, I mean, I don't know. That's a really broad stroke with that, but I don't think the writing works. I don't think the choreography works, and I don't think the special effects work.
You forgot synthesizer too.
Oh, man, I hate
the music, of course, and John Carpenter wrote a lot of the music for this, by the way.
Yeah, for a lot of his films.
Yeah, that's right, of course.
Which is iconic music for the 80s, right? You hear synthesizer and you go, dude, that's at least like 84 to 86 in that range, right?
Yes.
Roughly, I just go, it's John Carpenter. Yeah, it sounds like John Carpenter. All of his music kind of sounds the same. Good, I like it, but it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
So watching the movie, the reason why it wouldn't work today, I think, is just because of the racial profiling in this movie is so bad.
What? It's not racist at all.
I mean, it's like with everything that's going on with China and that, you know, the way China's opened up its doors, and it's like you would never be able to get away with this today. I mean, just some of the facial expressions to the point where that guy gets so mad that Lopan's daddy blows up like I don't even know, like a greasy pot of chicken pot pie or whatever splattered from the other room. I mean, that the over the topness of it, I think, is just would not fly in today's culture. And we get deadpan, but it got to China, so therefore we wouldn't actually make any money on it globally in the box office.
You don't think they'd embrace it? Is that what you're saying?
Not at all.
I'm okay with the culture. I think you can actually still do that as long as you keep an over-the-top attitude about it. It's the effects. I mean, that monster just looks hideous right now. It doesn't even look like a Halloween costume. I mean, it's that bad. So it's at the very end, and I hadn't seen it in a few years. So when I'm watching it, and he creeps up in the back of Jack Burton's truck, and I'm like, I don't even know why you'd be scared, man. Just kick that costume. It looks like a Scooby-Doo costume, for crying out loud. It's just not good. And again, the music you talked about, the actual, whatever the main song is, the Big Trouble in Little China song and the end credits is awful. Like, just awful. They should re-record that right now. I will wait, because that was bad. So the question comes from our history of it and everything else. Do you guys think this should be remade, or is this a movie that should be in don't touch status?
I think that you could totally remake it. I think that the concept and the fun of it is something that audiences today would totally eat up. I mean, you have all this stuff with that, like Seth Rogen does, right? The Neighbors and all the crazy crap that he puts out. I mean, you could have a group like that, maybe turn this into some really fantastic comedy that would actually play out for today's audiences in a completely different way.
You know, when I first when I first agreed to do this with you guys, I thought, no, they shouldn't remake that. That to me is such a fun movie from my childhood. I just want to leave it alone. And then I didn't know that they were actually working on a remake for this movie, and I just was completely unaware of all that. And so that came into my radar as I was researching it. But then after I actually watched it and started getting some ideas on what it would look like, yeah, I think so. Because I think it could be done well. I think it could be done right, and I think it could be done in a way that all of us who loved this as a kid would like the new one too. And that's really important, right? You can't just remake a movie. We've seen that way too many times, and that always happens. If they announce they're gonna make something new, like even this week they announced they're gonna come out with a new Star Trek series, and all of us were really excited. And then our second thought was, wait, are they gonna screw this up? Even though they've done some great Star Trek, it's not just the first time they've redone the series. But anyway, you know that feeling, right? And so
yeah, absolutely.
It has to be done in a way that all of us who loved it as kids are still going to embrace it. And I think that can be done. I think it should be done.
That's why that wasn't my first thought. My first thought was $6 for something that's unproven. No, thank you.
I'm of the mindset, I'm kind of in line with Darrell. This movie is a staple of my youth, and nobody's ever going to take that away. And I'm not a big fan of remaking movies that just to remake them. But I remember watching this as a kid and just loving the idea of how crazy it was, and there's nothing out that was like that. And in that respect, I would like to see a remake done. I definitely want it to go like kind of a different direction. I don't want it to be like a shot-for-shot remake or anything like that, but something new and different and unique that kids can watch and go, man, that's nuts. I can't believe they put that on film. Like that same experience that I had just for a new era. I absolutely would like to see this remade. Just don't use the same plot, I guess. Which is complicated when it's called Big Trouble in Little China, but we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's, we're going to talk a little bit about the remake, and we're going to remake this movie right. But first, here's another clip from the classic Big Trouble in Little China.
Where does this go?
Up to his office, Lopan's office. It's cooler up there. From there we can...
Do you have a gun, I hope?
I have a knife.
A knife? This guy's 12 feet tall!
7. Hey, don't worry, I can handle him. I took something. I can see things no one else can see. Why are you dressed like that?
I was getting married. He was marrying both of us just because my eyes are green too, I guess. I mean, oh God, is this really happening?
Oh, that was the love scene.
You know what I love about that scene? It kind of points out some of the ridiculousness of the movie. Like, he's marrying her because her eyes are green, I guess. Like, it's been thousands of years, and this guy has been trying to find some woman to marry with green eyes, and he's just now been able to do it. And now he's marrying this other girl because her eyes happen to be green, too. I mean, it was like the whole point of the first girl being Chinese and green eyes was set up to be this. That was why she was kidnapped and why it was all about to happen. And now, oh no, this other girl with green eyes that I randomly found, she'll work too. It was just like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
That's the best part, because it totally proved that Lopan was a dirty, dirty old man, because the curse was that he had to marry her and then kill her in order to have the eternal life as a mortal. But then he was like, no, I'll just kill Gracie Lawn and I'll keep this other one on the side so I can have fun with her.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Dirty, dirty old man.
But like, he couldn't have done that after he killed his wife. He couldn't have gone out and then just found somebody else because I don't know.
Green eyes are rare, man. Green eyes are
very
rare.
rare.
All you got to do is buy him contacts. Come on, it's a modern day.
I love that line in the elevator when he's like, I can see things that no one else can see. So why are you wearing that dress? It's like you should know, right? You can see
why
things.
does your face
right?
look like that? Here's what we know about the actual remake that's actually going to be made, and that's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That's right, The Rock is going to star in a modern remake of this. I assume he thinks he's up to playing Jack Burton. It's a bold statement, sir. And he's courting the fans, too. He even went on record as saying John Carpenter should be involved. I think he's trying to avoid another Chang Sing and Wing Kong street fight, I think, from the fans, because that was right after fans started going crazy about the idea of actually remaking this treasure. Kurt Russell also recently made comments that he doesn't know why they would remake it, but go get it and good luck. But if you read his comments, it really sounds like he doesn't like the idea.
Hey, someone's got to shake the pillars of heaven.
You've just been waiting for any opening to throw that in, have you not?
I totally have.
Okay. You idiot. All right, and as we always do when we do our remake, we kind of identify how much of a classic this film is. We determine that on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most classic, it is a 4, which means we need to have 4 nostalgic moments in our remake. 4 moments that reflect the original movie. And they can be wherever they want. So our 4 moments are going to be, number 1, there has to be a vehicle named the Pork Chop Express. There has to be a Jack Burton-esque monologue, a random gang street fight, and at some point there has to be a woman with green eyes. So those are our 4 moments. So we can put them wherever we want, however we want. Don't let them influence your ideas. Let's get into the story. I know we've each got like our own little pitch of how we would do Big Trouble in Little China for a modern day. So we're going to kind of each do our own little pitch, and then we'll put these together in a melting pot and come up with the best ideas. Darrell, this is the first time you've done the show. So what is your pitch? What's your idea or ideas for Big Trouble in Little China?
Oh man, you're making me go first.
All right, I can go Troy if you want. If you want to,
my ideas are pretty short, really. I'll tell you how I broke down the episode. Like I said, or the movie. I first thought that Western would be the way to go. If I were to remake this, I definitely don't want a straight off remake. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that would work today, and I just don't think. I don't know. I think they need to go a completely different direction. So Western was my first thought. I quickly ditched that and started thinking about what makes this movie what it is. It's this witty, tongue-in-cheek writing style. But it's clever, but I think it should be more clever. It is these great action sequences that I don't think work for today's choreography, but you bring them up to today's choreography. That's got to be part of it. You know, the action scenes, it's got to be people who can write that way, can act that way, can handle action and humor and good drama. And so I landed on a director first. And this may be getting a little ahead, but this is how my pitch works. So,
okay, that's all right. Go for it.
The director I landed on was Joss Whedon. And I think that's because I started getting a Firefly vibe because of the Western feel is still there. But then I thought, I don't want to set it in Western. I want to set it in space. And I'm pretty sure that's where I got, okay, we're going Firefly route, which was unexpected, but that's where my brain went. I started thinking Joss Whedon. And so that's kind of where I started building my ideas, was around that idea. I do think this could work as an episode or even a double-length episode of Firefly. I really do. And because obviously Firefly had the Asian element heavily influenced in there, and Joss made it work brilliantly. So I think it needs to be set in space on a planet, and maybe the different sides are people from different planets, and the vehicle is a spaceship. Because, you know, Kurt Russell's character, Jack Burton, is very much like a Han Solo type of character.
Yeah, true.
And so I can totally see him driving the Millennium Falcon, for example. So
or a Winnebago.
I could totally see that too. That's the thing, right?
I like that because you're going out for it, man. I like that. You're thinking out way outside the box.
That's my general construct. The set in space, different planets. He lands on a planet to pick up a shipment, and things go south from there. But the factions are because of these different planets who have the peoples from different planets who have had angst against each other. And then you can bring in some of this mythical and mystical stuff in a great way. I mean, because really there are no rules. You're writing your own rules at that point, and people aren't going, what? Come on. Lightning wrote from the sky, whatever. That can totally make sense. And it's not cheeseball over the top. It's, hey, it's set in space, and these aliens have that capability. So anyway, I'll let you guys tell me what you think.
Top that way. Well, let's hear everybody's pitch, and then we'll figure out what everybody likes about it. I like that idea because it's completely out of the box, and normally everybody's inside a box. Go ahead, Troy. What's your pitch? Top space.
Okay, well, mine actually involves a main character by the name of Joan, and she has green eyes. She's about to be divorced from her truck driving, maybe, but since we have to have a truck with the Pork Chop Express.
A vehicle, not truck, a
vehicle. Okay,
mm-hmm.
So we're going to call him a traveling salesman, if you will.
Okay.
Her deadbeat husband, who's always gone, who's actually coming back to New Orleans to sign divorce papers with Joan. So they're going over terms of the agreement in an English pub in the French Quarter, just because it's fun because they're white and don't really fit in. So, because you have to be completely like ethnically wrong with this movie. So they're in an English pub. They're having French onion soup in New Orleans because that would be funny, I guess. And Joan actually gets sick and falls into a coma.
I would disagree that would be funny, but you go ahead.
Right. So the husband actually needs to seek out help from the Armands to understand what voodoo magic was used in the soup to make her go into a coma because they're in the Big Easy. And the leader of the Armands is Louis, who describes this great struggle called the 100 Years' War, where the only way to save the kingdom from oppression was for a woman of green eyes to kill the emperor ruling the city. However, it's a rare find, and the last opportunity a woman had with green eyes was executed. And ever since, the voodoo thumb has basically ruled the empire ever since. So Joan just might be that person because she has green eyes. So as the story goes on, the Armands actually say that we have some trouble outside because the Burgundy gang is closing in and actually kidnaps Joan from the Armand stronghold, if you will. So Joan's husband, Louis, and the rest of the Armands actually set out to find Joan, only to discover that Pierre Cauchon, a wealthy businessman in New Orleans, is behind the entire Burgundy gang.
Well, you wrote a whole script, huh?
Yep. And then thanks to his help from his friends on the other side, the voodoo part, Pierre is basically protected by 3 knights that carry muskets for some reason. And they never use the muskets. They just have the muskets with them. And then the husband and Louis do what they have to do to save Joan. But Joan basically wakes up. They're trying to escape. And somehow it turns out that Joan is the one that actually kills Pierre, ending the reign of the oppression. And then at the end of the movie, Joan actually ends up divorcing her deadbeat husband, having found her newfound strength, and doesn't even kiss him goodbye.
Wow.
And that's basically, when you put it all together, it's called A Little English in the Big Easy would be the name of the movie. And it's a exact kind of play off of Joan of Arc, because there was a group called the Armenians, and then there was the Burgundois, I believe it was, and Louis was the brother of the King of France, and so you get a little bit of history, but in a comedic way.
That's really good. Yeah, I really like that.
And then Lopin would be played by Vincent Cassel, who's a French actor.
Now, hang on, you can't start casting people yet. Come on. Now.
Well, just to flesh out the movie.
Yeah, to sell your idea is what it sounds like. It sounds like you're just trying
Exactly.
to sell your idea.
I like the idea of having a female lead. I didn't quite go that route, but I cast it. One of the things I don't think works as well in these days and times either is having these damsels in distress. I mean, there really wasn't a strong female in this movie. In the original, they're just there to get saved by the men. And again, Joss Whedon is fantastic at writing strong female characters. Mm-hmm. So I do like the idea of having. I don't know if I want, or I don't think that the female needs to be the lead per se. Although I'm certainly not shooting that down. But I do think whatever we do with the female characters in this remake, they need to be a lot stronger than they were in the original.
I actually prefer the idea of the females in the film being the stronger characters. I like the idea of the jacked up, muscular, masculine man being the weakest person in the film. And I'm fine with like the women around him, but I liked having the main character, just whoever it ends up being, just not really being a hero. Mm-hmm. And almost like a red herring to a degree, because you think that's going to be the hero throughout the film, and he just isn't until like the very end when he finally does something heroic. I like that idea, and it's because it's off-putting, because everybody, I think that's being done a lot right now. It's almost like that's becoming the popular thing. We'll make female heroes everywhere, and I still think there's a place for the dumb, overconfident white guy. That's what I like. I still like that character, but we can talk more about that. My pitch was kind of like a meshing of two 80s environments. I'm a huge fan of Big Trouble in Little China, and I'm also a huge fan of The Last Dragon. Did you guys ever see The Last Dragon?
Mm-hmm.
Show enough. You did not?
No.
Oh, so good. So bad and so good at the same time. Probably more bad in hindsight. Yeah. But the concept was kind of like, and I know this is risque in this day and age, but kind of like a Big Trouble in Little Harlem, where you've got the white John Wayne character that gets dropped in Harlem, essentially, or is visiting his friend in Harlem, and he gets involved in a gang fight between two African-American gangs, who also, if you ever saw The Last Dragon, there's a lot of mysticism involved there. There's a lot of appreciation for Chinese culture. So you can still call it Big Trouble in Little China. And I thought basically interweaving those two cultures. So it's an African-American community, but it's also they're very steeped into Chinese culture and martial arts and the mysticism of that culture. And so you have this similar war brewing, and this guy gets dropped in the middle of it, and he doesn't understand any of the cultural differences. He's not at place. It's the same concept as Big Trouble in Little China. It's just a different environment, more updated for today as opposed to 30 years ago. That's really all I had. Mine's not as cool as either one of your ideas. Mine's kind of generic now that I think about it. I suck. So where do we go, guys? We got three completely polar opposite ideas. One's in space, one's in New Orleans, and one's in Harlem. So what do we do? Where do we go?
So it's almost like you need to have a space drama that's a modern day retelling of Joan of Arc with African Americans as the actors.
Wow. All right. Wait, you're really stuck on the Joan of Arc thing. I'll tell you what, I'm not on board with the female hero because that's when I think of Big Trouble in Little China, that's the first thing I think of is the John Wayne hero type that is not a hero. Like that is the number one thing I think of. It's not the Chinese culture, even though it's called Big Trouble in Little China. That is the first thing I think of. I don't know about you guys, but that's my perception.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, Aaron. I think that the primary lead does need to be the male, but as for the reasons you just stated, I mean the females and the supporting cast are really truly going to be the heroes here, even though he may end up delivering the fatal blow at the end of the movie, just like Kurt Russell's character did. But it needs to be the supporting cast that's the real true heroes getting things done here. And so I think I'm going to stick with you and make it a male lead.
Okay, so we got two. If two agree, we move on. So at least we got that part. Now we got to decide: are we going to be New Orleans? Are we going to be space?
Well, if we go space, which obviously I'm a fan of, and I'm tempted to use my cut on, but if we go space,
you can if you want.
We can bring any culture we want into that. There can be, because I do like the French idea. I like the Harlem idea too, and maybe that's what we have. Maybe we mix those two ideas, and those are the warring cultures, or we show those elements within the different, races, alien races, or planets that are kind of at angst against each other.
Yeah, because aliens don't have to be mutants. I mean, they don't have to be different kinds of creatures. They can be people. I mean, that when you think of Firefly, that's kind of what it was. It was just people. Right. There were no aliens.
I like the space idea because it opens up the freedom to be able to do whatever we want. As far as getting away with some of the craziness, like, we can fly through the air and have sword fights with no wires and stuff and make it look cool because there's no gravity on a planet. So we can totally get away with that.
The one cool thing about if we did that, if we went that way, which I'm sure there's many people going, you can't do that. It's Big Trouble in Little China. Everybody listening is an 80-year-old person.
Apparently.
It does. I mean, it makes it fresh enough to where you can at least justify, here's why we're doing a remake, and it's not tearing away at the memory of the original. You know what I mean? So it's doing something completely different, but a similar concept. I like space. I'm actually on board with that. I'm okay with that, surprisingly enough. And so the Pork Chop Express would be his ship, essentially?
Yes.
Yep. I'm good with that.
We could actually still bring China. We could have a three-way war. You don't have to limit it to two groups, right? To two factions. You could have three.
Maybe that's how we spin it, right? So we have the three elements, or in my case, it was the three musketeers. But you take the three elements, and maybe he has to go to three different planets, and he has to get the three items from each planet that make up those elemental pieces, and then he has to bring those elements to a fourth planet in order to save the damsel in distress or whatever we're going to do at that point. So that way the vehicle actually becomes more used in the course of it rather than just sitting in the storeroom at the end.
Yeah, one thing I didn't like about the classic is that I found the story really hard to understand and get into at the beginning.
Mhm.
Like they thrust them into the middle of the fight, and I'm going, and they had the airport scene, and then all of a sudden the Gracie Law is showing up at the restaurant, and I'm like, how do these people know each other? And it was really convoluted, and it didn't make sense on how all these things really tied in. You kind of understood it as the movie went on, but it took a lot of conversations and things to get there. I would like to see the new remake do a better job of setting up the movie and what needs to be done and why it's being done and how these people have relationships with each other. They established it between Jack Burton and Wang Chi, but they didn't really necessarily establish it between any of the others. So perhaps what Troy's saying there, where he has to go and kind of retrieve different things, or basically I think that's what I understood you to say, Troy. Maybe that helps set up the story a little bit better, even. Yeah,
Troy, explain your idea a little bit more.
So I was thinking it because these three elements or three things that the lightning guy and then the wind guy and then I guess we call it the fire guy, but didn't seem like it so much.
It's what? Lightning, thunder, and other guy.
Yeah.
I'll look it up while you guys are talking. Go ahead.
Creepy facial expression guy that blew up into a bowl full of stuffing or something.
Yeah. It's the three storms. They're known as the three storms. I know
the three storms. Yeah. So basically, he could go get like it's almost kind of like the fifth element in a way, where you would have to go grab these stones or whatever that you would have to bring to this fourth planet, and maybe as they go to each planet, they meet like the three different races, and all three different races have been like pillaged by this fourth race, and so he actually picks up, like the Egg Shen character, and he picks up the Wang character, and he picks up the I'm gonna forget her name now.
Gracie? Mei-Chi?
Gracie, right? Yeah, Gracie Law. You picks the Gracie Law character, and then the three characters have to come with him back to this fourth planet with each of the individual things. And then on the fourth planet, they actually have to find a fourth element that would then actually make space creature human or something.
Lopan.
Yeah.
And it's thunder, lightning, and rain. So that's where the three storms come from. Thunder, lightning, and rain. So Lopan is our fourth planet. He's at our fourth planet, and the elements are gathering these, what did you call them?
Yeah, I guess you can either go with the standard four elements of, earth, fire, wind, water, or you can come up with, really crazy things like, chrysanthemum and...
Just name them something random for no good reason whatsoever.
For no good reason, yeah.
I like that. I like where we're going with this. It's completely different, but yeah. I like that. That's okay. That's what a remake is, and they don't do that enough in remakes, and they end up just doing the same movie and just cast the newest actor on the block.
Big Trouble in Outer Space.
You could still call it Little China. I mean, there's a way you could work that in, I'm sure.
It was a Chinese colony that ended up, it got so overcrowded in China that China built their own capsule to escape from China. And then the capsule goes and lands on this fourth planet, and they build their own culture. So when they get to the fourth planet, they're like, hey, what are all these Chinese people doing on this planet?
Now, of course, Troy, like he does, he goes too far.
Well, I think the danger we run into here, and this is my fault because I'm the one that brought up space.
Sure did.
And we do have to be careful that we're not trying to rip off Firefly too much here.
You're afraid of lawsuits?
Totally my fault for bringing this idea, but I think we do need to be mindful of that.
So no character named... So Adam Baldwin can't be our Jack Burton.
Wouldn't he be perfect, though?
Yes,
good. That's what I was just thinking. I was like, yes, Adam Baldwin.
He kind of is Jack Burton at this point.
He really is. I mean, yes. That is Jane Cobb right there.
We could call the fourth planet that you're talking about, that could be Little China. That's just the nickname. Bam, problem solved. Title still works.
The planet itself is actually in the shape of China.
Well, now you're getting...
That's too far, Troy. You've done it again.
That's a little too far, Troy.
Hey, they can have a Statue of Liberty in space. I'm just saying.
See, you can't give Troy an ounce because he just goes too far. Do you want it to be planets or just like sections of the same planet, or how do you do it? I assume since we're in space, we just keep it 3 planets that lead to fourth, and that's where Lopan is being resurrected.
Yes. That's my vote.
So are the elements, the three storms, are they the ones trying to gather the elements, so to speak, to bring Lopan back? Because that was where I got lost a little bit.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. I thought of it more of you had to collect the elements to prevent Lopan from coming to be.
Well, I think for them to be worried about it, somebody would have to be trying to resurrect him, right? I mean, otherwise, why would they care?
So is the fourth planet Earth then, and actually in China?
I mean, you could do that. Sure.
Could do that.
Doesn't matter to me. And
Yeah, the elements have to work one way or the other. I mean, and it's. I mean, to me, I'm a Zelda fan. So when I think of acquiring 3 elements so that you can accomplish a task, I mean that's straight out of a lot of the Zelda storylines, and it works. It works really well. It's kind of it doesn't jive with what we've got in the classic, but I don't know that it has to. But if you're going to go and gather 3 things and bring them to a point, then the purpose of gathering those 3 things would be to shut down Lopan, to destroy Lopan. So those things being separated must have been separated in order to, that's what is keeping him immortal or right? Or am I thinking about this the wrong way?
Well, well, we could look at that. I mean, here, okay. So now it's starting to click for me a little bit. So you've got Jack Burton. He's driving his space bus, whatever, and he comes into what's his friend's character's name? Help me.
Wang
Chi.
Wang Chi. Meeting Wang Chi, and the girl he's gonna marry ends up getting taken, because we could go with the same thing that she has. I don't know if green eyes. I mean, I guess we do need a woman with green eyes. So
yeah,
she
we
could
gotta
just
have the green eyes.
Yeah, takes the elements, or the 3 storms have taken her because she's the key to Lopan's resurrection, and so in order to save her, they need to weaken him. So they need to find 3 objects from other planets, and then they can go forward and fight Lopan. Maybe something like that?
Yeah, maybe the 3 storms get neutralized by whatever element that you're going to find from these planets. So you need to go find the element in order to neutralize the storm,
and
so that you can
they
get
have
to
to
Lopan.
fight through 3 different cultures.
That.
They would fight through 3 different cultures, so you could have 3 different crazy scenarios instead of just Chinese culture. And then ultimately they could Earth, if you want to do that, where they go back to Earth and they fight Lopan and his henchmen because they have what they need now, and that's in China. So then there's your big trouble in Little China.
But he can only be killed by a woman with green eyes.
So basically, the one thing that will save him is also the one thing that will kill him.
Maybe. I wasn't necessarily saying the he also had to marry a woman with green eyes. I was kind of just turning it to say he can only be killed. Kind of like that's his silver bullet, is a woman with green eyes.
I like it. And Gracie can be picked up along the way. You can still have a Gracie in there, strong character who can kill him.
Mm-hmm. Or you pick up or it's a 4th element, right? And you end up bringing the 4th element as a woman with green eyes from another planet, because they don't exist on Earth because it's so rare.
We got rid of all of them. We just got sick of eyes, green eyes.
Lopan did, because it was his kryptonite. He killed them off over the years.
Hey, I like that. It's weird, but it doesn't have to make sense because, it didn't make sense in the original. So.
Right.
All right, so Troy, you're the memory guy. Recap where we're at so far, because there's so much we talked about. I'm kind of lost where we're at.
Okay, so Lopan is risen to life, or is about to be.
Let me, because I know Troy here quite a bit, Darrell. So, Troy, don't add your extra stuff.
Right.
Recap where we're actually at.
So Lopan is rising or about to rise up in China. He has the 3 storms. His henchmen go and kill all the people with green eyes on the planet of Earth. And therefore, this one guy who happens to have a spaceship called the Pork Chop Express takes off on a quest in order to neutralize the 3 storms by finding 3 particular elements. But in order to truly defeat Lopan, he needs to find a 4th alien creature that's a woman or a female of origin with green eyes, because that's his only kryptonite that will destroy the evil entity.
Is that where we're at? Do you agree, Darrell?
Yeah, that sounds about right. What if there was a baby, because Lopan was killing the children with green eyes? So you have the whole Moses thing, right? The mother took the child with three eyes, maybe with green eyes, and kind of cast the child off, as it were, down the river in the reed basket of safety. This is a metaphor, so we're trying to figure out what that looks like in our movie.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that happened years ago, and this person, of course, that takes away the whole love interest between the Jack Burton character and perhaps if this is still Gracie Law, but maybe that's how this person got in contact with Jack Burton, is she stowed on the Pork Chop Express, and he didn't realize it until it was too late to do anything about it. And this has kind of been his foster child, and now she's of age, 20s, and able to fulfill the prophecy. Is that too far out there? Have I just gone Troy?
Who recently escaped from the Phantom Zone? And
I might have just gone Troy. Sorry about that.
No, actually, it's kind of interesting. So Lopan is actually going around killing all the females with green eyes under 2 years of age, and one of the females actually escapes in a shuttle of some kind, because Egypt, was able to come up with some technology, right? So she's an Egyptian woman, let's say. And then
what?
They said she doesn't have to be Egyptian.
That's not a metaphor. That's nailing it right on the head.
I'm trying to think of a civilization that would have been advanced enough to have built a spaceship back in the day, because this is like way back, like hundreds of years ago or something.
You just took a metaphor and made it a Bible lesson. That's what you did.
But I like the idea of having like an Earthling sent into space, right? And because of whatever space-time reality and light travel and all that jazz, she doesn't really age at all. And so now it's like hundreds of years later on Earth, but she's still like you said, 20 or something on this planet, and they have to like go find her because there's some map or some legend or something that talks about the Emerald Goddess that was sent into space.
See, Daryl, you give Troy an ounce. He's got hundreds of years and Egyptian ladies involved now.
Yeah. I thought I Troyed it, but he took care of that himself, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he went full Troy. Oh yeah. He went full Heinritz.
I love that. He went full Heinrich.
What about it instead of the 300-year-old Egyptian lady? Lopan has basically wiped out all of the people with green eyes, and so Wang Chi, I always forget his name. Wang Chi, right?
Wang.
Yep.
He has found this person that was cast aside, that was set free on the shuttle just 30 years ago. So she's young, and they found her. So they're going to go and kill Lopan because she's the only one. She's the prophecy. She's foreseen to kill Lopan as he's starting to reign power. And the only way that they can get to Lopan to begin with is that they need Jack's help to find the three elements. They're going to take down the three storms. Once they get the three storms out of the way, then this green-eyed girl can finally kill Lopan.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Whew, we got a movie. And I'm perfectly okay with Joss Whedon directing it, if Troy's okay with that, because it seems like his kind of tone.
Well, and I think of Cabin in the Woods, right? He wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great example of a movie that obviously is paying homage to a very campy movie that we all love, right? And at the same time, playing into tropes in a very respectful way, brilliantly written. You know what I mean? I think he's the guy that can do all of those things that this movie would need to honor the original, but yet be appropriate for today's audiences and today's standards.
Okay, so I'll throw out a counterpoint then.
Oh boy.
How about Matthew Vaughn, who did the Kick-Ass movies and Kingsman: The Secret Service, directing this?
How about Whedon writes it and Vaughn directs it?
There you go.
There you go.
Boom.
There you go.
Perfect mesh of styles. There we go.
I like it.
We have worked together. Now, the hardest question, I think, of all is who is going to play our Jack Burton? I assume we're still calling him Jack Burton because we haven't said otherwise.
I think you do.
So are we going hunky guy or are we going like just funny guy?
I think it has to, well, like we talked about, where it has to be a guy who you would look at. If you saw him on the poster, you're like, that is a hero. That's Joe masculine guy, hero. And then when you actually see him in action, he's a total incompetent boob.
Because I originally had pegged Simon Pegg to be the new Jack Burton.
Oh, yeah. He's not masculine to me.
He's too booby.
Yeah, he's too booby.
But Chris Pine, I think, is a good candidate.
Ooh.
Oh, he's in everything.
I know.
Oh,
and he wasn't my first choice. because of that, and because he's also in space movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's a good
It's
candidate.
too close to Guardians.
Yeah,
He's not in Guardian.
He's
That's
not
Chris
in
Pratt.
Guardians.
That's Chris Pratt.
Oh, it's Pratt. Yeah, Pratt. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what.
yeah. And I thought of
Pratt.
him too, but you're right. I totally eliminated him because that is too close. You know, we're talking Star Trek. There's some difference here.
Oh, well, who was the guy? I'm not going to know his name, but he played opposite Pine in Into the Woods. That was Rapunzel's boyfriend. I'll have to look it up because maybe that would be a good way to go because he was kind of that brooding in the agony scene in Into the Woods, tearing his shirt open and kind of has that goofy flowing blonde hair.
You're looking that up. Let's see. You got Chris Evans. You got Chris Hemsworth, Bradley Cooper, Thomas Jane. I like Chris Pine though. I mean, I'm trying to think, and that's a guy I hadn't even thought of. But if you saw Horrible Bosses 2, he's really got the comedy down. He's got the machismo down. Into the Woods, I mean, he was kind of a machismo in that, and he's got that cockiness.
I think Troy's talking about Billy Magnuson.
Yeah, I guess it depends. Do we need like an A-list person or a B-list person if the female's going to end up winning the war?
I think I've got I'd like to think I got the female picked out perfect, and she's really strong. So we're gonna have someone that's gonna be able to stand toe to toe with her, unless you guys shoot me down, which is totally cool. But
I like Pine.
I like my pick for the Gracie Law character.
I like Pine. I'm actually on board with Chris Pine.
I hope you're thinking the same person I'm thinking of.
Who are you thinking of?
Because my person
if we've decided on Chris Pine, we can move on.
I'm good with it. Troy, you good?
Well, yeah, I'm good with Pine.
Okay, so who? I got to hear who you guys have picked for the lady. Who's your Gracie? Which is she's the woman that was basically Moses, right? Is it Moses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you got, Troy?
I actually looked up actresses with green eyes, so that would actually work. And
they have contacts, Troy. It's okay.
But I wanted it to be like original, right?
Oh boy.
True green eyes, right? So I picked Evangeline Lilly.
Oh, that's a great call.
Okay.
I got Scarlett Johansson,
which was my second choice because she's
Yeah.
been in everything, so that's why I went Evangeline.
I picked Scarlett because she can totally kick butt. Right, that's been demonstrated time and time again, and she's got the green eyes. I also went with you, Troy. I wanted an actress with green eyes. I'm cool with Evangeline too.
I like Evangeline,
fantastic.
and just Kim Cattrall has brown eyes, so they actually use contacts for her. Just FYI.
Mm-hmm.
I had Anna Kendrick, just because of the comedic aspect. But
if we have Chris Pine, then we're just making Into the Woods.
That's cool. We'll just do a sequel. But I do like Evangeline Lilly. I'm kind of on the board with that one. I like her more than Scarlett.
Okay.
Just because
I could go with Evangeline.
I think Evangeline has more comedic presence because I think she can be funny and serious better.
Exactly.
Than ScarJo, as I like to call her.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys think we have a movie?
Do we need to cast Lopan? Some dirty old creepy dude.
I have a couple of suggestions for Lopan.
Oh boy! All right,
this is tough. This was really tough for me to figure out, but I have a couple of suggestions. The first one I don't like as much, but I do like him, and this is Ken. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Watanabe.
Oh yeah, Ken. I know who you're talking about. He was in Batman Begins.
Yes,
and
Inception.
Yep.
Last Samurai. He's fantastic.
I think it's Watanabe. I think
that's probably it. Yeah. But my preference, and I love this guy so much, is and again, I don't know how to pronounce these names. I'm sorry.
Do it with a Chinese accent. I think that's okay.
I'm not going to do that. It's gosh, I hate to pronounce this. Hiroyuki Sanada.
Who is that?
Okay, so he has been in Helix. He plays.
He's the temple god in
the Doctor.
Lost.
He's also yes, that's right. He's Dogen in Lost.
Yep.
I don't know him at all.
I'm good with that.
He's fantastic. He plays a very good bad guy. He plays. He
was on Exton too, wasn't he?
Yes, he is. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I think he's old enough. Again, they can age people really well nowadays, much more better than they could back in '84.
Yeah, obviously,
so,
yeah.
They didn't age him; they just nuked him for when he was in his wheelchair.
Yeah, they totally did. So that's my suggestion.
I'm cool with that.
I like it. This movie is so far from the original. I wonder how many fans have already turned this podcast off. I'm curious. Darrell, why don't you tell us who Lopan is? Because I'll never get that name right.
Hiroyuki Sanada.
Sounds good. Troy, who was our Jack Burton and our Gracie?
Jack Burton was Christopher Pine, and Gracie was Evangeline Lilly.
All right. So we are good to go. But before we hear our final pitch, we got to hear one more clip from Big Trouble in Little China before we destroyed it.
You just listen to the old Pork Chop Express here now and take his advice on a dark and stormy night when the lightning's crashing and the thunder's rolling and the rain's coming down in sheets thick as lead. Just remember what old Jack Burton does when the earth quakes and the poison arrows fall from the sky and the pillars of heaven shake. Yeah, Jack Burton just looks that big old storm right square in the eye and he says, "Give me your best shot, pal. I can take it."
I still think the movie needs to end with something like that.
I think it does too.
Not just the monologue, but the monster jumping out of nowhere.
Absolutely, in the back of the ship, the Pork Chop Express ship.
They go to all the planets and they come on back, and when they bring back something, just happens to come back with them for the setup for the sequel.
That's right.
Oh, I know it's time to hear our movie, our pitch in movie trailer form. Why don't you introduce him, Troy? You were really excited to use a Big Trouble reference, so please take it away.
So we'll actually go ahead and present this in movie trailer form, brought to you by the vocal stylings of Wayne Henderson from MediaVoiceovers.com. So let's see if he can really shake the pillars of heaven with this week's trailer. Take it away.
Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot. Wait a minute. Sorry, guys. Wrong trailer. Okay, here it is. In a world split by cultures and divided by chaos, Jack Burton has come to pay his dues. Recruited by his best friend, Jack is tasked with fulfilling the prophecy that tells of retrieving 3 elements and a mysterious woman with green eyes, all needed to defeat the 3 storms and ultimately the vicious ancient Chinese evil known only as Lo Pan. It's all in the reflexes as Jack uses his ship to traverse the galaxy and fight through various martial arts styles in order to prove he's that hero that he keeps telling everyone he is. Everything you loved about the original has been reimagined by writer Joss Whedon and director Matthew Vaughn as an even more ridiculously unbelievable adventure in the stars. And this time, the winner takes all. Take a sip of that magic potion, prepare to see things no one else can see, and catch a ride on the Pork Chop Express with Chris Pine and Evangeline Lilly. We have to go back. We're about to cause some big frickin' trouble in Little China.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice
That
job.
is even better than I thought.
That is a movie I want to see. And I bet when people started listening, they never thought we'd end up in space. Like, of all the ideas, I don't think space ever, because it never occurred to me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. So what do you guys think? Now that we're all said and done, do you think this would be a movie you would actually go see?
Yeah, maybe on a $5 Tuesday night. Sure.
Wow. You have no faith in your own product, man.
It'll be good. It'll be interesting.
Now, you both have little kids, right?
Yeah.
Mine aren't little. Mine are 11 and
Tweens.
almost 13.
Okay. Would you take them to see this kind of movie?
Yeah. I don't know that my daughter would be up for it, but my son would.
Oh, that's where you want to aim for. That's the sweet spot. That 10, 12, 13, 14, like we were when we saw the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if my son was a little bit older, I would totally show him the original, most likely.
Now that we're done with our remake, is there anything you wish you would have incorporated? Like, what's the craziest idea you had for something so already crazy?
Well, the one crazy idea I was plotting around was that the truck itself would actually come to life and actually just start driving over people.
Like Maximum Overdrive?
Yeah, like Christine and Stephen King or something.
Okay. I was going Michael Bay route with like
Like Transformers.
I'm like,
Transformers.
what?
Yeah. The truck becomes one of the elements.
Full Heinritz. That's what that is.
That's what that is.
What about you, Daryl? Do you have any other crazy ideas?
Honestly, guys, no. I thought the space idea was going to get me laughed out of this podcast. I truly did. I'm shocked that we made that movie in space.
I'm pretty sure everybody else is probably laughing this podcast out. I'm like, no, you can't do it. No. Well, we did Pet Cemetery a few weeks back. And because, that's based on not only a beloved movie, it's based on a beloved book, too.
Right.
Man, there's some angry people out there because they don't want you messing with their history.
Well, and I've told you, we grabbed a fistful of movies every weekend, and usually they were horror movies. And yeah, that's another one of those. That's Stephen King right there. So that was right in my weekend wheelhouse, if you will, as a kid.
That actually, it holds up. But when you rewatch it, there's some definite things that could be tidied up a little bit. All right. Well, what do you guys think? Do we nail it, or do you think you got a better pitch? You really think you can top Big Trouble in Little China in space? I don't think so. But if you think you can, we're willing to hear it. Email us at remakethismovieright@gmail.com. That's remakethismovieright@gmail.com. And we might mention your pitch on our next teaser episode. Remember to review us on iTunes. Reviews always help. Thumbs up on Stitcher if you listen there, or just throw us in your podcast app of choice. Please make sure you check out Wayne Henderson, who does our wonderful trailers on the podcast. And go to MediaVoiceovers.com. You can also hear him if you're a Packer fan or if you just like football. Packers Fan Podcast. Troy Heinritz, where can people find you?
You can find me hanging out with Wayne on the Packers Fan Podcast at PackersFanPodcast.com. Or you can hear Aaron and I doing a great podcast for Darrell on Golden Spiral Media. That's the Blacklist Exposed at theblacklistexposed.com for all you Red Reddington fans.
Much like Marvel, it's all connected.
It is.
Darrell, where can people find you?
Well, you don't do the podcast for me, Troy. You do it for the fans of the Blacklist.
Of Blacklist, yes.
Man, he's got this.
You can find all the great stuff that Golden Spiral Media produces, including the Blacklist Exposed, as they were talking about, goldenspiralmedia.com or propodcastsolutions.com if you are looking for some help with your podcast.
And returning in the spring, the Person of Interest podcast.
Absolutely. Person of Interest podcast. Can't wait. Final season. Going to be a lot of fun. That's when I host with Doug Payton over at goldenspiralmedia.com.
And if you're a TV fan, definitely go to Golden Spiral Media. They've got a lot of great shows. And also, you forgot the Stuff I Learned Yesterday podcast.
Well, I didn't forget it. It's just over there at goldenspiralmedia.com. But yeah, because there's so many. I just send them over to goldenspiralmedia.com, click on podcasts. There is a buffet of podcasts to choose from.
Absolutely. A plethora, if you will.
Yeah.
That's my favorite word. I love that word. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Remake This Movie Right. Remember, you can find us on Facebook at Remake This Movie Right. There's a Facebook group. You can also find the Hollywood Outsider group. You can find us at RemakeThisMovieRight.com. We're on Twitter at RemakeRight. But that's going to do it for this episode. So remember, guys, the next movie you watch, it will get a remake someday. And only you can make it better.